Is the new DC Multiverse Batman Superman fusion worthy of the title World's Finest? Or is it a colorful cash grab you can pass on by? Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation. Starting with the packaging, and we know what to expect. Name and logo down here. Apparently this is somebody's slash fiction. On the side we see that the Batman-Superman fusion comes from Batman-Superman World's Finest. Looking at the UPC, and by golly that's a lot of trademark logos. And then on the back we get this iconic cover image. It's colorful and ridiculous, and for packaging gets 5 points. Moving on to presentation, and the Batman-Superman fusion stands at 7 inches, or 18 centimeters, and is itself mostly a fusion of Speeding Bullets Batman and Black Lightning. The main body was originated by Speeding Bullets, but that figure had a sculpted logo, as well as accommodations for a glued-on cape and boots that kind of look like classic Iron Man. For Black Lightning, McFarlane went in and did a bit of resculpting. The upper torso was now one smooth, solid piece that could be painted over with any logo. It also no longer had a hole in the back for the cape. They redid the gloves, but that doesn't really apply to this figure, but they did give him simpler boots. Unfortunately, the cut of the boot isn't exactly accurate to SUPERBATMAN. They should actually be shaped closer to Earth 2. But to McFarlane's credit, they actually did give him new sculpted arms, which, given how similar the design is to Speeding Bullets, they honestly didn't really have to. Also to McFarlane's credit, they gave him a completely new head, when if we're being honest, they probably could have gotten away with using this one. Reuse being the only thing that really holds this figure back. Don't get me wrong, I love the proportions of the Speeding Bullets body, but while the ribbing running down the sides is totally accurate to Speeding Bullets, it's not accurate to this or any other figure that they use it for. At a glance I like this a lot, but the extraneous detail does distract. That said, I love how nicely they've painted this logo. Not just on the front, but also on the back. As combination Batman-Superman logos go, this is a really fun design. In the World's Finest comic, Batman has the Michael Keaton logo, and you can definitely see a bit of that influence. I'm a little bit less clear on these gloves. First, an explanation. So you might be wondering, how exactly did Batman and Superman pull a 2-Vix and get fused together? And no, they did not in fact do a Dragon Ball style fusion dance. No, what happened was that Hal Jordan was possessed and Batman and Superman combined their wills to wrestle the ring away from him. Instead, the power of the ring got their peanut butter in each other's chocolate, and a Green Lantern powered Batman-Superman fusion was born. So with that being the case, I'm a bit unclear as to whether or not this is part of the costume or if this is supposed to be an energy effect. The only other thing to comment on is this new diaper/belt. It's been very well sculpted and is comics accurate. Depending on the panel you look at in the comic, it's either more orange or more yellowy tan. I will say that here the paint job does make it look a bit messy, but at the same time it's also kinda nice to see some extra detail in there. Anyone else see a smiling face, or is that just me? Good paint job, and I do appreciate the newly sculpted pieces, but the reuse adds details that shouldn't be there, gets other details like the cut of the boot wrong, and omits details that should have been sculpted like the shoulder pads. For presentation, I'm giving SUPERBATMAN a not so super 3 points. Moving on to Poseability, and it's been a while since we've looked at this body, so it's not a bad idea to refresh our memories as to what it can do. Additionally, this is the first time I've reviewed this guy without a cape, so that'll also be good to see. Also, as a quick reminder, while I do have Black Lightning, I never technically reviewed him. From the top, Infusion Man's head is on a dumbbell joint. He can look up this high, which for a flying character is adequate, and he can look down this far, which for a Batman is adequate. He's also got a great amount of tilt, which for a sassy Green Lantern is adequate, and all the way around, which is adequate to, well, no one unless you're Beetlejuice or the Exorcist chick. Moving on down, he can raise his arms over 90 degrees, which is pretty nice. Lots of extra range afforded to him by that wibbly-wobbly rotator cuff, and complete rotation. And yes, the arm is exactly as loose as it looks, but it's staying in place, so that's all I care about. Traveling down the arm, and that Batman-Superman fusion has bicep swivel, double jointed elbow with a great deep bend, and wrist balls that can swivel and hinge either up and down or side to side. Shifting to the torso, and the Batman-Superman fusion has a diaphragm joint and a dumbbell waist. In the absence of a cape, and he can arch back this far, which is great. And to his credit, this body hunches forward a lot better than usual. He can also tilt and twist. Below the side pockets, and Batman/Superman has the typical McFarlane hips. He can kick 90 degrees and do a near perfect split. In terms of the hip, the twist is there, but you do gotta work it a bit to get it going. And then moving down the leg, his double jointed knees can bend this deeply. Of course, he's got toe articulation, and ankle balls that can swivel, hinge, and like Batman and Superman going from two separate entities to merging into one technicolored fusion, pivot. Regardless of whatever issues I have with the reuse, the articulation on this body is great. I'm particularly pleased to see the forward-facing hunch doing its job. For posability, I'm giving the Batman-Superman fusion 5 points. Moving on to playability, and in terms of accessories, there isn't quite as much to see as I wish there was. It goes without saying that we're getting a trading card and a figure stand, and if you want to know what that trading card says, pause here. Otherwise, Batman/Superman comes with 3 of these green batarangs. Those can fit in the left hand. Otherwise, while the figure has a preloaded fist and accessory holding hand, the only other extra is this open left hand. Not that I'm unappreciative, but just giving us 1 extra hand is kinda weird. At the very least, I would have expected an alternate right hand of some sort, and of course an extra fist would have been nice. Seriously, what's the point of giving him 3 batarangs if he can only hold 1? Most importantly, I really wish he had some kind of energy effects. Even if they didn't want to make new energy effects, they could have just given him the black lightning hands cast in green. That being the case, and if you have any other Green Lantern figures lying around, you can use those effects with this guy. But playability is more than just accessories, either real or hypothetical. It's also about how well your figure plays with others. Beginning with Batman, and I'm going to stick with blue and gray since that's what he wore in the world's finest comic. Here we have Detective Comics 1000. Next up is Year 2 with his matching incorrect boots. Based on the proportions, however, and also the blue and yellow, the best match would be Nightfall. That said, if you've got him or can get him, you really can't go wrong with this Comic-Con version. Switching over to Supes, and again based on the colors, I do think that Action Comics 1000 is your best match here. However, I'm sure some of you were interested in the Hush version, and I'm certain that some of you were curious about DC Classic. Otherwise, and here we have Earth 2. For the twist of this colorful cocktail, we've got to bring out Green Lantern. This Hal Jordan is from the Dawnbreaker 2-pack, but for the one that feels the most appropriate to the world's finest comic, and here we have the Silver Age Vigil version. For a few other possessed heroes from the story, and here we have Martian Manhunter, the Red Tornado, which, come to think of it, with a little work would have been a great base body for this guy, and the Collector Edition Firestorm. Unfortunately, I highly doubt we'll ever get a figure of the Devil Niza, who was responsible for all this chicanery. Kinda makes me regret selling my Sabak Megafig. I do have this 4 Horsemen Studio Krampus, though. Granted, he's a bit on the small side, but for figure photography purposes, you could make it work with some creative angles. For a relative-scale comparison, here's the Technicolor Knight with Pizza Spidey and the Spectacular Spider-Man. And as always, here he is with Stealth Iron Man. The scaling with other figures is fine, and I appreciate that we got accessories, but 3 batarangs with 1 accessory holding hand really just doesn't cut it. For playability, I'm giving Superman/Batman 3 points. This leaves us with nothing left to discuss but the price. I picked up this figure at Walmart for $22.99. Given how often I feel like I have to rely on pre-orders to find anything, actually seeing him in a store was a pleasant surprise, but between the inaccuracies created by the reuse as well as the kinda useless accessories, this fusion falls a bit flat. For price, I'm giving Super Batman 3 points, averaging out to a final total of 3.8 out of 5. For more Batman and Superman videos, check out one of these, and until next time, play nice and have fun.